Atticus Noble, a brutal admiral of the Empire's military, was known for his sadistic methods. He arrived on a distant and quiet moon called Velt, which was far from the center of the Empire. Velt was a peaceful farming community, with simple people who worked the land. Despite its quiet life, the rebellion had begun to grow here as well. On Velt lived a woman named Kora, who worked in the fields alongside the other farmers. Kora was still new to the moon, having only lived there for 2 seasons. Den, a local farmer, was interested in her and tried to pursue her, but Kora had a hard time letting anyone get close. She had been shaped by war, and the idea of family and love had been taken from her as she was turned into a soldier at a young age. All she knew was fighting, and even though she now worked on a peaceful farm, she could not escape the horrors of her past. As Noble's forces arrived on Velt, the farmers knew their lives would soon be changed forever. War was coming to their peaceful world, and Kora, who had once fought in battles far away, would have to decide where her loyalty lay, with the empire that had destroyed her life or with the rebels fighting for freedom. The people of Velt, including Kora, were about to face the hardest fight of their lives. The villagers noticed a large ship, a dreadnought, entering their atmosphere. Kora quickly warned everyone, knowing the Imperium had arrived. Gunnar, a farmer, thought they could make a deal with the Imperium, but Kora disagreed, saying the Imperium only takes control. Gunnar had sold some extra produce to rebels before, and Kora thought it was better to give the Imperium what they wanted before they discovered anything. Sindri, the village leader, refused to negotiate. When Atticus Noble, the Imperium commander, arrived, he explained that his troops were hunting rebel siblings, Devra and Darian Bloodaxe. Noble offered to buy the village's grain at a high price since his army was running low on supplies. Sindri refused, saying the village didn't have enough to survive. But Gunnar revealed there might be extra grain, hoping to avoid trouble. Noble, angered by Sindri's refusal, killed him and ordered Gunnar to prepare 10,000 bushels of grain in 10 weeks, leaving the village with barely enough to survive. The villagers were now faced with a difficult choice: submit to the Imperium or resist, knowing the consequences would be severe. After Noble left, he stationed a few soldiers in the village, including Marcus, a cruel soldier, and Private Aris, who was disillusioned with the Imperium. Jimmy, robot, was also left behind to oversee the harvest. These robots had stopped fighting after the king's death due to their programming. Marcus bullied Jimmy, and over time, the robot began to think independently. Sam, a villager, befriended Jimmy, who told Sam about the fallen king and his daughter, Issa, who was meant to bring peace to the Empire. Jimmy revealed that he and the other robots were created to protect Issa and that Sam reminded him of her. Kora wanted to flee, but Gunnar and Den believed they could survive by giving the Imperium what they wanted. One day, Kora found Marcus and other soldiers preparing to assault Sam. With the help of Jimmy, who had turned against the Imperium, Kora killed the soldiers. This was surprising, as Jimmy robots hadn't killed anyone since Issa's death. Kora warned the villagers that Noble would likely destroy the village when he returned unless they prepared to defend themselves. Kora and Gunnar set out for the port town of Providence to gather fighters for the village's defense. Their goal is to recruit Titus, a former Imperium general who betrayed the Empire by turning on Motherworld. Gunnar also hopes to find the Bloodaxe siblings, whom he had supplied with grain last season. During their journey, Kora reveals her dark past to Gunnar. She shares that she was once a soldier for the Imperium, adopted and renamed Arthale by Commander Belisarius after he wiped out her family and home planet when she was just 9 years old. By the time she was 18, Kora had risen to the rank of officer, fighting for the same empire that had destroyed her life. She became the bodyguard for Princess Issa, who was believed to have the power to bring peace and life to the galaxy. However, Kora failed to protect Issa during her coronation, when the royal family was assassinated. In the chaos that followed, Belisarius seized power and renewed the Imperium's brutal conquests. When Kora and Gunnar arrive in Providence, they learn from Gunnar's contact that Titus is likely on the planet Pollux. They meet a smuggler, Kai, who agrees to take them to find Titus. Along the way, Kai introduces them to 2 more warriors, Tarok, a beast tamer, and Nemesis, a cybernetically enhanced swordswoman. The group eventually finds Titus in a drunken state at a gladiator arena on a remote moon. Titus, once a commander for the old king's eastern forces, initially refuses to help. However, Kora convinces him to join by reminding him of his fallen soldiers, who died after he surrendered to Belisarius. Next, they travel to the planet Charon, home of King Levitica, to meet with the rebel leaders, Darian and Devra Bloodaxe, whom Gunnar had dealt with before. Darian agrees to defend the village and brings a few rebels, including Milius, with him. However, Devra believes that fighting Noble's dreadnought, the King's Gaze, is hopeless, calling it a destroyer of worlds that can't be fought with a small force. After Kora and her group leave Charon, Noble arrives and wipes out the planet's population as punishment for helping the rebels. Kai confesses to Kora that he's inspired by her mission and plans to leave his life as a smuggler behind, after completing one last delivery. However, he takes the group to a trading post where Noble's ship is waiting and betrays them, revealing his plan to hand them over for the bounties on their heads. Gunnar is spared, but the rest are captured. Noble recognizes Kora, Titus, Tarok, and Nemesis, citing their pasts. Kora and Titus as deserters, Tarok as a former prince turned criminal, and Nemesis for killing imperial officers in revenge for her children. Noble declares that by delivering their bodies to the regent, he will be celebrated as a hero and earn a seat on the Senate. Kai orders Gunnar to paralyze Kora, but instead, Gunnar frees her and kills Kai. The other warriors are also released, and a fierce battle breaks out. In the fight, both Darian and Noble fall. Kora kills Noble, while Darian sacrifices himself to destroy Noble's ship, ensuring the survival of his comrades. After the battle, the surviving warriors make their way back to Velt, with Jimmy silently watching from a distance. Meanwhile, Motherworld forces recover Noble's body, and he is resurrected. In an astral encounter with Belisarius, Noble is commanded to end the rebellion and capture Kora alive so Belisarius can personally execute her. Noble's body was brought back to life under the watch of Cassius, a warrior from Noble's dreadnought. Once revived, Noble ordered Cassius to set a course for Velt to confront the Scargiver. Meanwhile, Kora, a former Imperium soldier, and the surviving warriors return to Velt, a moon orbiting the gas giant Mara. They believed Kora had successfully killed Admiral Noble, Belisarius' right-hand man, preventing the planned attack on Velt to seize its food supplies. Cassius reaches out to Aris, a soldier stationed on Velt, and informs him of Noble's orders. Aris, secretly working as a double agent for the village people, quickly warns them that Noble is alive and that the dreadnought ship will arrive in 5 days. The villagers, along with the fighters, decide to harvest the entire grain supply within 3 days. Their plan is to use the flour as leverage, preventing the Motherworld forces from simply bombing the village from orbit. With the remaining 2 days, Titus, a former general of the Imperium who has been recruited to lead the fight against the Motherworld, prepares to train the villagers to defend themselves. Kora and Gunnar, a farmer, become lovers. During a moment of trust, Kora confesses that Regent Belisarius, her adoptive father who took control of the Motherworld, forced her to be part of a terrible plot. She reveals that she was involved in the assassination of the Motherworld's king, queen, and young Princess Issa. Belisarius murdered the king and queen, and Kora, under his orders, pulled the trigger on Princess Issa. Belisarius saw that under the princess's influence, the king was bringing an end to the Motherworld's expansion, something he could not allow. He wanted to preserve the war machine that so many soldiers had sacrificed their lives for. After the coup, Belisarius tried to frame Kora for the murders. Instead of facing the consequences, Kora fled to Velt in a Motherworld shuttle, hiding from the law. After the harvest, the villagers gather for a night of feasting and community, which Jimmy watches from a distance. Over the next 2 days, Titus, Nemesis, a cyborg sword master, Tarok, a nobleman turned blacksmith, Milius, and Kora train the villagers for the upcoming battle. They dig trenches, lay explosives, and prepare Kora's shuttle, which had been idle in the mountains for over 2 seasons. Kora and Aris repair the shuttle, successfully getting it operational. During their preparations, the group shares their pasts, though Kora keeps her involvement in Princess Issa's death a secret. Titus reveals that Belisarius ordered him to intimidate the Parliament of Sarawu with his battleship, forcing them to vote against independence. When Sarawu chose freedom, Titus refused Belisarius's order to attack, resulting in his ship being shot down and his men killed. Milius, from a farming world too afraid to resist the Motherworld, ended up in labor camps scattered across the universe. She was rescued by the resistance during an attack on the mines where she worked, becoming a rebel. Nemesis's fishing village was slaughtered by Imperial forces. In her quest for vengeance, she cut off her own arms to receive cyborg implants, transforming herself into a warrior like her ancestors. Tarok was once royalty on his planet, but after the Motherworld killed his father during a peace negotiation and invaded his home, he lost his mother in the chaos. He was smuggled off-planet and hidden in a refugee transport, vowing never to let another world fall to the Motherworld's tyranny. Kora, however, simply says she is a war orphan, raised by Belisarius, and only found a true family when she arrived on Velt. Kora meets with Jimmy, helping him understand that both of them have been conditioned to fight for the Motherworld. They realize that joining forces might be their worst nightmare. Jimmy acknowledges this but feels hopeless about their chances of winning. When Noble arrives with the Dreadnought, his forces scan the village and locate the women and children hiding, protected by Nemesis and Aris. Noble sends his troops to capture them in an attempt to force Kora out. Kora offers to give up the grain in exchange for leaving the village unharmed, but Noble refuses to leave without her. He promises that presenting Kora to Belisarius would earn him a seat on the Senate, and he threatens to destroy the village in her name to manipulate her. Kora tries to surrender to Noble to save the village, but Gunnar triggers the ambush regardless. Titus and Tarok lead the villagers in successfully repelling the first wave of attackers, though Nemesis is killed while defending the women and children. The large contingent of heavily armored Motherworld troops in the second wave pushes the remaining defenders back, causing significant destruction to the village. Amid the chaos, Kora and Gunnar use the shuttle and stolen uniforms to sneak onto the Dreadnought and plant explosives in the engine room. The engine room detects their presence and alerts the bridge. Noble orders Cassius to annihilate the village and heads to the engine room to capture Kora. As Noble confronts Kora, Gunnar listens to their conversation from the shuttle, which serves as their escape route. Meanwhile, Jimmy arrives to aid the village defenders in pushing back the attackers. The explosives detonate, destroying the Dreadnought. Gunnar rushes out to help Kora and engages Noble in a fight. Gunnar kills Noble but succumbs to his injuries shortly afterward. Devra Bloodaxe, leader of a rebel faction opposing the Motherworld and Darien Bloodaxe's sister, arrives with her forces. They destroy the remaining Motherworld troops, securing a hard-fought victory. In the aftermath, the village mourns its losses. Kora confesses her past, which Titus reveals he already knew. He also discloses that Princess Issa is alive and in hiding. The group resolves to find her and restore the royal lineage to the throne to overthrow Belisarius. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.